recording?
Yep, I'm going to unpause it now.
Oh.
And so I recommend in terms of making sure we don't...
Hey guys, Spudknocker here, and welcome back to DCS World. Now today we have a recording of a one-on-one training session with a patron from down under, down in Australia, and he wanted to go through and kind of get an evaluation of his skills to see if he was ready to fly in larger, more organized DCS World co-op and PvP missions, of course. And he definitely passed that idea with flying colors, and he really just wanted to get a tune-up of his skills, kind of go over things that he had misconceptions about, such as how to actually use the HMD to designate points on the ground, as well as how to use kind of more advanced weapons like the JSOW, and how to use them effectively in DCS World. We also talked a little bit about how to use the air-to-ground radar and how to designate points on the ground using the map mode of the air-to-ground radar to actually slew your targeting pod right to a geographical point, like a very easy distinguishable point on the air-to-ground radar like Greater Tomb Island here on the Persian Gulf map. Now, he did a really fantastic job, and he came back and made a really fantastic landing in the dark with no NVGs, and of course with a rockin' crosswind to boot. So he did really fantastic, and I think he got a lot out of it. And today I flew a bunch in real life, and I was definitely wiped out, but I came back and I used some severe clear cognitive and energy enhancer from leading edge supplements, and it was definitely worth it to get a little bit of an energy boost from some severe clear, just to make sure that my patron who is supporting my channel monetarily is going to get the best out of me and make it worth his time to go out and fly with me a little bit and tune up his skills. And definitely check out Severe Clear and Leading Edge supplements. You can use Spud for 15% off of any of your orders. So definitely check them out and enjoy this training mission that we did with a patron. I do one-on-one training with all patrons who donate $15 or more to support the channel and my ongoing efforts to make awesome DCS World content. So thanks a lot, guys, and of course, fly safe out there and stay healthy.
Where it actually impacts the target and then has a very large explosion for a bomb in DCS.
Yep.
And the A version is kind of bugged right now, and it kind of like veers off course and doesn't release its munitions, so we'll just go with the C for today.
Okay.
And then, of course, you know that you can, of course, adjust your fuel, your gun ammo type, flare count, chaff count, pre-selected loadouts, and, of course, your liveries as well, if you wanted to change those.
Yeah,
And
rocking the Aussie Airlines.
Nice. And we'll go ahead and hit OK.
What was that one, sorry?
Sorry, say that again?
I missed what you just said.
Okay, just make sure you hit OK, and then they'll start arming up your jet.
Oh, yeah.
Also, on your screen, I can see you have the event log up there. If you hit the tab key, you can make that white text go away, and then if you hit left control and shift and escape twice, you can get rid of that red text from SRS as well.
Oh,
which
wonderful.
Yeah, so that kind of cleans up your picture a little bit, makes it a little bit nicer.
Thank you.
No problem.
Nice.
All right, my rearming is complete, so we'll just go ahead and go through the startup procedure. I'll just kind of look over your shoulder in the stream and just make sure you've got everything. Of course, if you have any questions or concerns, just let me know, and I can, of course, help out.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I have, like, a textbook order, but I feel like I do okay. I normally try my best to multitask.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people in DCS get kind of too caught up in doing it perfectly, whereas a lot of pilots, even in real life, will do it their way, that they know best, as long as they hit the certain points and sequences that make the jet do it properly without damaging anything or anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
Alrighty. And once you have your MPCD turned on, and you go for the ground alignment, make sure you hit STDG and HDG for a stored heading line. Oh, you already got it. Perfect. That was something that changed recently, but if you had just started DCS just a few weeks ago, that's all you know.
Yeah, that's all I know.
Yep, so that's perfect.
I do, like, sometimes I get, like, oh, I guess a question. On carrier, like, I know you set your alignment to CV, but can you still use a stored heading or no?
I believe in real life that you can't. However, in DCS you can, and it does make the alignment shorter on the carrier.
Yeah.
I don't know what that functionality would actually be like in the real jet. As well as just a small tip, just for taxiing around on the deck of an aircraft carrier or around the airfield, it might be a little bit easier and you might be a little bit less distracted by things if you have your HMD turned off. But that's just a personal preference kind of thing.
Yeah. I hadn't clicked the little button yet.
Gotcha.
Is there, apart from, like, you know, the Reese switch, Reese button?
Yeah.
Is there any other, like, real application for that, apart from, because I use depressing that as my HMD toggle, but, like, does up, down, left, right do anything on that, or are they just free binds to use for whatever?
Yeah, so the Reese button in real life, because everything that's happening in the jet is being recorded on essentially a cassette tape that's behind your ejection seat, that's a button that the pilot can press that kind of puts like a marker in that tape. So that way, like, say he's doing dogfight training and he just shot down, you know, the bad guy that he's pretend dogfighting, he can press that button and that way it'll be marked on the HUD tape. So that way, when you go back through it later on, you know, in a debriefing, you can zoom to that point very quickly and see, oh, that was an important event, we better look at that closer. Alrighty, so my jet is good to go, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have my INS into IFA. I'm just going to turn on some internal lighting and undo my parking brake. Also, we want to make sure that our hook bypass is set to field, and our flaps are set to half, and then we'll get our taxi light on. Of course, you need our O-bogs on. That is something that I tend to forget a lot because it's way back there by my left hip. IFF push tile needs to go on, as well as the data link push tile needs to go on.
Yes, IFF on, data link.
Yep.
And I forgot to do this thing, I don't know what it's called. The ECM.
Which thing? Oh, yes.
This little, like, radio thing under the MCD.
Yeah, so that, you need to turn on your EW equipment, as well as your dispensers, and you can bring the ECM to the standby position as well. Also, we need to uncage our radio altimeter, which looks like you already got that. And did you get? Looks like you did. So it's going to be back down by the hook lever. So that's the little gauge that's on the right-hand side of the cockpit by the tail hook.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, by the bureau number. You got that. Gotcha. Looks like you already got your ADI uncaged, so you're good there. And it looks like you got a green jet, so we're good to go. One quick thing that's going to be very, very helpful for takeoff today is if we set our stab trim to 19 degrees up for takeoff with a very heavy loadout like we got today, that'll help the jet rotate off the runway a little bit smoother and easier.
So I know that it defaults to 12 when you reset.
Yep.
Dumb question, how do I adjust it from there?
Use your trim switch on your stick.
It's that easy.
Yep, so nose up trim, just bring that up to about 19.
Cool.
So for the way I kind of do it is if I've got 3 fuel tanks and lots of bombs, then I go for 19. If you say have like 3 tanks but an air-to-air loadout, so air-to-air missiles instead of bombs, I'd go for like 17 or 18. Then if you got a light loadout, only 1 tank, then I would go for between 12 and 14 degrees nose up.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm going to change my radio frequency so I don't have to listen to the AWACS for now. And we should be good. We should be ready to roll here. So what we're going to do is we're going to taxi out of our shelter, and then we're going to follow the center line to the right-hand side. We're going to make a 90-degree left-hand turn, followed by another 90-degree left-hand turn, and then we'll follow the taxiway down to the runway here. So I'll have you lead the formation today, so that way you can concentrate more on stuff that's happening in your cockpit rather than trying to follow me around, okay?
Roger, so we're going... it doesn't have runway. It doesn't have taxi markers on the F10.
Yeah, it does not have taxiway markings on the F10, which is kind of annoying, but we're going to be going for runway 09er. So taxiing out of your shelter, you're going to follow the center line to the right-hand side, then we'll make a left-hand turn, followed by a left-hand turn, and then we'll make a right-hand turn to the runway.
Roger.
Yep. I'll turn off my taxi light so you don't get blinded. It looks like maybe your flaps are at full. Do you have them at half?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And so we'll go to the left here, and then we're going to taxi via Taxiway Alpha to get to runway 09er. So you can see on the taxiway sign there that yellow sign with black letters is where you can go, and black background with yellow letters is where you are. So we're going to take Taxiway Alpha to your left-hand side.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hey there.
What are you doing?
We're currently doing a one-on-one training.
Okay.
You're going a bit fast.
Yep, so you don't want to taxi too fast. That's definitely something that you'll learn if you ever fly the F-16, because if you taxi too fast in an F-16, you'll definitely tip yourself over.
High center of mass, low landing gear width.
Yep.
Same issue the ME-109 had.
Yep. If you're ever taxiing in formation with a group of fighters, you would kind of split the taxiway with some being on the left-hand side and some being on the right-hand side if you wanted to taxi in kind of like a formation. But otherwise, just stay right on the center line, and your wingman will hang out behind you on the center line as well.
Normally I would stop, but I'll just...
Yep. So, in most servers in DCS World, players treat it like an uncontrolled airport in real life. So go ahead and hold on the runway, and then I'll get there, and so that way we don't get separated out too much. So most players will treat the airfields like an uncontrolled airport in real life, where they'll say essentially where they are. You would say like Al-Minhad traffic, and then who you are. Just say, you know, if you have yourself a call sign for your flight, like Ford, flight of 2 F-18s, taxiing to runway 09, Al-Minhad traffic. You know, something of that nature. And then you just update the other players that are in the server, or your wingman, or anyone else who may be listening and need that information just periodically throughout your flight. So, or throughout your being in the terminal area around the airport. So we could say like Al-Minhad traffic, Ford 11 flight of 2 F-18s taking runway 09 for straight out departure. You know, something of that nature before you switch over to a tactical frequency for your combat flying. So that's kind of something that can be very helpful, and you can just literally just copy what other people are saying. So we'll fly out towards waypoint 1 here, and we will climb up to 15,000 feet and go for a airspeed of 350 knots for our climb out. Sound good?
Sure. What else? Sorry, what climb rate?
Yeah, so a good climb is going to be like between 5 and 7.5 degrees nose up for trying to keep track of your wingman and allowing your wingman to keep up with you. And then once we're outside of the terminal area, so once we get to about waypoint 1, we'll start to climb up a little bit further and head 90 degrees to our left towards waypoint 2, and we'll climb up to like 20,000 feet. Sound good?
Sounds good.
The best thing is just you don't want to accidentally shake your wingman off while you're trying to, you know, take off and get to your objective. You know, you always want to make it so that if you're the leader, you're flying smoothly, you're flying precisely, so that way your wingman can always keep up.
Sounds good.
All right, so when you're ready, go ahead and go for it.
Ramp up to 80%.
Roger, we've got a bit of a left to right crosswind today.
Okay, 80%. Brakes off. Do I go burner for the takeoff or just mill?
I just go burner.
Burner.
All right.
Trying not to drift.
Yep,
Sorry.
it's all good. And I'm up.
Oh
What's
god,
up?
I'm all over the place.
It's okay, I'm up above you.
It's a heavy jet.
Yep, it definitely is.
I'm at 350, climb rate of about 7.
Your gear is still down.
What?
Yep.
It did not register the input, and I've probably overspent the gear now.
Yeah, looks like they came up.
Wonderful.
Yep, I'll come up with you and I'll slide underneath you and check you out.
Thanks.
And then now that we're kind of up off the ground, we can bring our radar up on our right DDI. And make sure we're coming left just slightly towards waypoint 1.
I think I must be heavier on the right wing.
Yep,
Trying to trim that out.
yep, just give your trimmed hat just nice little touches, so that way you don't accidentally trim yourself too much the other direction.
Oh, you're on my right. I see.
Yep. Alright, I'm sliding underneath you. Yeah, looks like you ripped your nose gear door off, but that's okay. We'll just continue on.
Sure thing. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I definitely want to get the like the takeoff panel
Yeah.
from WinWing, because I've noticed a few times like I kind of have to spam that keybind for it to register.
Yeah. Usually with DCS, you don't want to just give like a quick press, like on the G key for the gear. You just want to kind of press it for like, you know, a second, and then it'll usually come up. As well as if you just look down slightly at the gear lever in the F-18, it will flash red. There's actually a little light in the gear handle, and that way you know it's going to the upright position. As well as if you look at the gear indicator, you'll see the 3 green lights extinguish. And then, as I'm flying out into Indian country, where I know I'm going to be seeing some bad guys, I'm going to go ahead and bring up, of course, my radar on my right DDI so I can get a good idea of what's around me in the airspace around us, as well as my EW page up on my left DDI, and make sure that my dispensers and countermeasures are good to go.
What altitude should we be leveling?
Now let's climb up to about 20,000 feet, and we'll be flying towards waypoint 2. So that's going to be a heading of about 0 to like 1 degrees.
Sure. I'm going to make a left turn now.
Yep.
Pretty standard rate.
Yep. And do you have waypoint boxed on your HSI so that way you can see the tick mark on your HUD?
Yes, I do. I just
Okay.
wasn't paying attention.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's like 020 degrees, like right almost on the dot.
Oh, that's why it's... I had it set to sequence. I'm going to turn back to the right a bit and come back towards you. I had it set to sequence, so I knew I needed to turn, and I knew which way it was, but I hadn't actually increased the number on the HSI. So it was giving me a bum steer.
Cool. So now that we're kind of outside of the terminal area and we're, flying towards combat, I like to switch over my navigation to the SA page. And that's going to give us some more tactical information. We can see each other on it, we can see data link contacts on it, all that good stuff. And so we'll be attacking the area of Greater Tomb Island. There'd be some good juicy targets out there for us, and we'll be using our JSOWs in target of opportunity mode. Essentially, they work almost exactly the same as the JDMs you were using this morning in your practice that you were doing, and it's very easy to use them. They, like I said, they work exactly the same. They just have a longer range. They even have the same kind of maximum range kind of cues that you see, those rings on the HSI. Everything almost exactly the same, just a longer range. So what we can do is we'll go into air-to-ground mode, and we'll start setting everything up for our attack on the island. So just want to go to, on your source page, go select the JSC for JSOW-C. We'll select mode on the top left of the DDI to TOO, target of opportunity mode.
Yeah.
And we'll go E-fuse to instant.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna reduce my HUD brightness as the sun starts to set here. And that's pretty much all we've got to do for now. Now we can go ahead and select the JSOW display on the right side of the DDI. So we can go ahead and level off here. We kind of came through to 20,000 feet, so we'll level off at 25,000.
Roger.
And have you ever used the autopilot much in the F-18?
I'm trying to use it right now.
Cool. That'll help reduce some of your workload that you've got to worry about.
Whoa, what is it doing? I do not like whatever this heading select is doing.
Yeah, you don't want heading select, so go ahead and hit the autopilot disconnect.
Yep.
Yeah, use barometric altitude hold mode for holding your current altitude in MSL. You can use attitude hold for the current attitude of the aircraft, whether that's nose up, nose down, wings banked, wings level, whatever it is. R-alt holds your current radar altimeter altitude, so that's going to be your AGL. And that really only applies when we're flying down low for prolonged periods. Alrighty. So, have you played around much with the air-to-ground radar?
A little bit.
Okay. So basically it works pretty much the same as the air-to-air radar in that you can, on the map mode, it basically is giving you radar returns of the ground. So for attacking a target like Greater Tomb Island, it's really great because we can just see the island like a little dot in the sea of black that is the ocean on the radar. And so it's very, very easy to find the island and then attack it with the air-to-ground radar. So you just go sensor select switch right, and then you can move your yellow captain's bars around, or your TDC, to actually select a target. You go TDC to press, on a point on the ground, and it puts a little X there on the ground wherever you depress the TDC, and that's where all of your sensors are going to be going, and that's where you're going to have a target mapped out for you to actually release weapons on. Now, what's really cool about that is we can select a target like Greater Tomb Island, and then we can, with the air-to-ground radar, and then our targeting pod is automatically slaved to that location, so that way we can then open up our targeting pod, our FLIR page, and have our targeting pod looking directly right at that island, even though we maybe didn't have a waypoint on top of that geographical point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
So like right now, for example, I've selected a point.
Yep.
Oh, okay, it just uncaged. I often have issues with like when I make my first selection, not caging, undesignating. Sometimes it refuses to undesignate.
Yeah, it like refuses to undesignate for me too sometimes. But what you can do is you can make sure you have waypoint reboxed on your HSI or your SA page, and then you can select which waypoint you want, and that will effectively put your navigation back to waypoints instead of a target point. Also, if you come out of air-to-ground mode, it is really not wanting to undesignate for me today. Give me 1 second. Oh, that's weird. I've been having this problem a lot lately in the F-18, but it seems to be worse right now than it usually is.
Yeah, because it really throws you off when you're trying to learn a process, you're trying to learn how things work, and then something that you're expecting to work doesn't.
Exactly. It definitely does throw you off, but we'll work with it. We'll be okay. So what we can do now is we'll go ahead and start, once we hit waypoint 2, we'll make another 90-degree left-hand turn towards waypoint 3. Now waypoint 3 is right on top of Greater Tomb Island, and so we can either do waypoint designate to just slave our targeting pod right to the island, or we can do the map on our air-to-ground radar to designate the island itself through radar returns to get our targeting pod on it. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. Every time we redesignate a target with our TDC depress, it will automatically override the previous target that we cannot unselect at the moment. And it looks like we'll be flying right into the sun. So we'll go ahead and fence in, so we'll go master arm on, and we'll turn off our external lights for now. You can still see me very, very easily by using your HMD. You can simply just look at me, and you'll see a nice circle around my airplane with an A inside of it, so that makes it very easy for you to find me.
What is the A?
The A, so because I'm the number 1 in the flight in terms of how we actually selected the aircraft in the slot selection, or the select roll page, I'm the number 1 in the flight, so I have an A. You're number 2, so your circle has a B. If we had a 3, he would be C. If we had a 4, he would be D.
Roger. Making a left-hand 90.
Perfect. So that also goes for on your SA page. If you zoomed in your SA page to actually see me on that page, you would actually see a circle with an A inside of it, and that will be me, your number 1 jet in the flight. Alrighty, so
I way overshot that.
You're good. It's gonna be like 270 degrees.
Yeah.
And so what I'm gonna do now is, now that we're rolled out, heading towards waypoint 3, I'm just gonna go ahead and push my air-to-ground radar out to a further range, and I can see a few islands on my radar page. I'm gonna go for, if we fly directly at waypoint 3, the larger island that should be right on the center line should be Greater Tomb Island. I'm going to go ahead and designate it by going TDC depress. And then once you've got that, if you open up your FLIR page, you should be right on top of that island with your FLIR page. It looks like your stream cut off, so if you want me to pause it so you can reset up the stream, I might be able to help you out a little bit easier.
Yeah, fixing it now.
Alrighty. Yeah, so it looks like you've already... What's that?
I was going to say, unlike the air-to-air, like I can see that I'm at 80 miles.
Yep.
But normally I would have, on my air-to-air, like zoom options.
Yeah, so I believe it's because we're paused at the moment, as well as it looks like you already have a point designated. So what you can do is...
undesignate.
Yeah, and then if you zoom in a little bit on your radar page for me, you see the what kind of bigger island on the the second to the bottom arc that goes across, so towards the center line of the airplane. That guy right there, that's the island we want to attack. That's Greater Tomb. So if you put your captain's bars right on top of that island and then go TDC depress, you'll have all the weapons of the jet slewed to that point. And then when you open up your targeting pod page, you'll be able to just have you'll be able to just have your FLIR designated right onto the island itself. Then you can start looking for targets. There's plenty of vehicles around the little airport on the island, as well as some helicopters on the little ramp area. And then essentially all you got to do is once you find a target with your targeting pod, you slew it around, get it on top of, say, a helicopter or a tank, just go TDC depress once again. And because we're in TOO mode on our JSOWs, if it says you're in range, then all you got to do is press the pickle button and the weapon will be away and you'll be good to go.
Roger.
Sound good?
Give it a go. Yep, give it a go.
All right, I'll go ahead and unpause it.
I think I have already slaved.
Yeah, it looks like
island.
It. Yep, so go ahead and open up your FLIR, because it looks like you've already definitely got a target on top of that point. And then go ahead and go to CCD mode, and there you go. There's the island right there. Easy as that. And then to make it a little bit easier on yourself, go ahead and throw your aircraft into barometric altitude hold mode, and that way you can reduce your workload a little bit.
Come on. There we go.
Yep. And then right at the base of one of the fires is the ramp area for the airport in question. And if you zoom in, you'll be able to see some helicopters on that ramp.
I see them. Whoa.
Nice. And then go TDC depress. And then you can go to the JSOW display on the right-hand side of your DDI. Go to the MSN for mission. Cool. You've got coordinates in there, so you're good to go. You can go ahead and fire a JSOW whenever it tells you you're in range. So for me, I still have 50 seconds to maximum range.
Yes, I'm within 10.
Perfect.
How quickly can you switch? Because it's GPS. It once I release it, it knows where it's going. So as soon as I've released it, I could slew to another target.
Yeah. So just like a JDAM, you can release the weapon, then slew to another target, and release your second weapon, and they'll both go all by themselves right to the target.
Well, I lost a lot of weight on one side. have to trim the heck out of this now.
Yeah, it's a bit asymmetrical now for sure. Alright, both my JSOWs are away, and we'll just orbit a little bit, just take your time with retrimming the jet out, and then we will talk about how to designate targets with your HMD, and we will drop our LGBs on those targets, okay?
Wonderful.
Sometimes it can help with retrimming out the jet to actually kick your autopilot off for a second. Sometimes the autopilot can kind of fight you a little bit with it.
They don't give a time to impact, do they?
They do not. But you can keep your targeting pod on that area and see when they impact. I can see on the F10 map, I can see all 4 of our 154s just cruise into the target area. And you can also, they're kind of slow because they're just glide bombs.
Yeah.
So they take a little bit to get to the target area. And did you launch on the helicopters that are down there?
Yes, I launched on the inner and outermost.
Cool. I went for some tanks on the eastern arrival end of the runway, so we'll see where they go. Also, if you look down at the island, you can see a little dot with a upside-down staple underneath it, and that's where my target is, and I can see your target is right on top of where those helicopters are.
As in you're looking out the cockpit?
Yep, so look out of the cockpit at the island itself, so it's going to be on your left-hand side. Or maybe I think you might be right over the top of it. So go ahead and make a 90-degree turn to the right-hand side, and then yeah, you're right over the top of it.
My targets are destroyed.
Yep, let's see if mine...
I believe it is.
Yep. Nice, we both got them. Perfect. So if you give yourself... So one of the biggest mistakes that DCS World pilots make when trying to learn how to work with a targeting pod is they end up not giving themselves enough separation out away from their target area. So if you're trying to work over the top of the island while trying to slew your targeting pod around to find targets, it's not going to work very well. Your pod has to move really, really fast to find it, and then if you are separated out away from the target area, you're not going to exceed like the gimbal limits of the pod as easily. All these kinds of things are going to make a lot more sense and be a lot easier for you.
Yeah, I found that when I was like starting out with CCIP bombing.
Yeah.
If you like try and turn around and go again like too close to the target, you don't have enough time to get set up.
Yeah. So just for future reference, you also, if you say you release a bunch of JSOWs and they're on their way to the target area, you probably want to turn the aircraft and like go like 90 degrees or maybe even turn around all the way, so that way you don't fly over the target you just shot at, because there's more likely than not there's going to be SAMs down there, there's going to be AAA guns, there's going to be all kinds of things that want to shoot you down, right? So we kind of want to avoid that kind of area by flying around the island or fly away from it or perpendicular to it rather than directly over the top of it. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Perfect.
So we're about 12 miles. Is this a good point to start?
Yeah, so what I would do is I would make a 90-degree turn to your left-hand side, so that way we're not closing with the island, we'll be flying perpendicular to it, and our pod will be unmasked, so that way we can find targets, but not have to worry about necessarily flying too close to it.
I think we're going to merge here.
I turned left as well, so we won't hit each other.
Okay.
Yep. The reason why I turned left is because the pod lives on the left cheek station of the F-18, and so if we have the target off of our left side, the pod's not going to be masked. But if it's on our right side, the pod will be masked.
Yeah.
And if you look to your left and look at the island with the fires on it that we just attacked, you can see that little dot with the staple underneath it?
Yeah.
That's my target that I had designated, and the diamond with the dot inside of it is your target that you designated.
Because I think I've seen that symbology before. Does that also apply to like air-to-air? Like if you locked up an air target, would I see that staple? Or?
Yeah, but usually the air targets are going to have the staple over the top of the dot rather than underneath.
Right.
The symbology looks very similar, but they are different for air-to-air and air-to-ground. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go back to our stores page, and we will select our 82 LG for our GBU-12s. The symbology there for 82 LG is simply because of the fact that it is a Mark 82 with a laser guidance kit on top of it that makes it a GBU-12. E-fuse will set to instant.
Or...
Yeah, so we want to deliver LGBs in auto mode if we're going to be self-lasing. And then code, why don't you go with the standard 1688 code? I'll go with 1687, so that way we don't get mixed up. On the right-hand side, we need to, of course, arm our laser designator. And you should automatically have code 1688 in there. I'm just going to put in 1687 for my laser designator. And at this point, we're good to rock and roll with our LGBs. Now, in order to select a target with our HMD, you want to hit the undesignate button, which it actually undesignated for me that time. You know, go figure.
Same. Yeah.
And then you want to go sensor select switch forward, and you should have what looks almost like a gun sight in your HMD now. You want to then put that gun sight, that little dot in the gun sight, right over the target that you want, and then go TDC depress, and then go to your go sensor control switch right to make your TDC or your sensor of interest the targeting pod again. Now keep in mind that as you're looking through your HMD, if your sensor of interest is still your HMD or your HUD, you can actually move your target around pretty easily using the TDC in your field of view.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Because I noticed if you stay, like if you leave the HUD as your SOI,
yeah,
it tends to drift as you fly past the target.
Yeah.
And I noticed that only stops once I like leave that SOI.
Yeah, it will. And that's why I always recommend that you go SOI to your flare right away. So that way it doesn't drift so far on you. Alright, I've got a nice tank lined up with my flare now. So I'm going to go ahead and go TDC depress on top of that tank. So that way that is going to be exactly where my weapons are going to be dropped in auto mode of my F-18. And I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little bit more separation out away from the target before I come in for my drop. Now there's two ways you can laze for your bomb in the F-18. You can automatically have the aircraft laze, or you can manually pull the trigger to fire the laser. If you want to manually pull the trigger, you're going to have to box trig in the top right OSB button on your FLIR page. So I'm going to go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like the way I learned, and you have to hold the trigger the entire time, and it's horrible.
Yeah, so in the F-18, for GBU-12s, it will automatically fire the laser in the last 10 seconds or 15 seconds before impact. And so if you fly a really good approach to the target and you do a good job, you shouldn't have to worry about squeezing the trigger. It'll do it for you.
Okay, I might do that then.
Yeah, just go ahead and give it a try. I didn't trust it for a long time, but then I started trusting it, and it actually works pretty darn well.
Have you started your approach?
Yep, so I'm in on the target area. I've got 30 seconds to release. I'm at 25,000 feet, so if you're higher or lower, you can go ahead and go in towards your target as well. And you essentially just want to have your velocity vector right in the middle of the fall line. Here comes my drop cue, pressing my pickle button, and there's weapon away.
You just dropped one?
Yep.
Yep.
And when you drop the weapon and the weapon falls away, on the HUD you should see a countdown to laser, and that's when the jet will automatically fire the laser for you, and then you'll see a TTI for time to impact.
Roger. We might... We're kind of crossing paths here. You will probably end up in front of me.
Yeah, you're going to be well behind me. You're good to go. Alright. 10 seconds to impact. My jet's firing its laser. And Shack.
Oh, we went for the same target. Damn
Oops.
it.
That's okay.
That's alright. I'll find out if I would have killed it.
Yep.
So that's a good reason for checking the staple and making sure they're not too close to each other.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I would have figured out that we were probably targeting the same thing.
Yep, exactly.
And TTI 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And kaboom. Looks like you got him.
Wonderful.
Good job.
Team effort.
Yep, we definitely got him. It's definitely a pancake now, that's for sure. Also, because it's getting a little bit darker, if you put your FLIR into CCD mode, it might be a little bit easier to see targets down there. I'm sorry, not into FLIR mode rather than CCD mode.
Oh, I was already in FLIR. I don't like CCD. It's hard to see anything.
Yeah, it is. It's easier if you actually put the targeting pod on your MPCD. You'll get grayscale instead of greenscale.
Oh, let me try that.
Yep. And then as it gets darker...
I'm looking at my wing right now, so it's all one color, but...
Yep.
Yeah.
I now have my displays in nighttime mode. That's going to help me with the brightness options. And I'm going to come around again and start to line up another target.
Whoa, why is that so bright?
There's a kind of a bug with certain things that the targeting pod looks at in DCS in terms of the bloom for high heat signatures is usually over the top.
I keep getting my wing in the way. It's annoying. I need
a
shallower orbit.
Yeah. This is why, one of the main reasons why the United States Marine Corps put the FLIR pod or the Lightning pod on the centerline station of their jets, so that way it's hanging down below all the stores on the jet, so that way they don't mask the pod quite as easily.
Yeah. I'm going to go for one of those helicopters I didn't get before.
Perfect. I'll go for the little AAA piece that's right next to the helicopters. Actually, it's a tank. Yeah.
Wait, what bombs are these?
So these are GBU-12s. So these are the 500-pound laser-guided bombs.
Oh, I just realized, yeah, so I think when I was doing laser stuff, I was doing LMAVs. Okay,
yeah, so that would be an actual missile. Yeah. And for the LMAVs, yeah, you actually do need to squeeze the trigger the entire time. It will not auto-laze for an LMAV. So just a FYI with that. Alright, 30 seconds to release for me. I'm in on the target.
I am the same. About 20 seconds now.
Cool.
What do you say when you release one of these?
Paveway.
Paveway.
Yep. So a guided freefall bomb is paveway. A air-to-ground missile that is sorry, I had to talk real quick there. So also make sure that you get your laser rearmed. Otherwise, you're going to have to do a fumble just like I did, where I had to arm it and then box trig real quick, and now I have to actually revert to squeezing the trigger because I messed up on that one. So
I didn't realize that the laser would turn off. I already dropped the bomb, but it's not within time to... Oh wait, it is within time to lose. I think
Yeah.
I just dropped a dumb bomb.
Yep, that's okay. So I did the same thing. So what I did was very quickly, I looked down to my panel and I armed the bomb, and then, or I armed the laser, and then I boxed trig on the top left or top right OSB button of my FLIR page, and then I very quickly started squeezing the trigger.
Right. Okay, I should have done the same. I armed it as soon as I heard you say it, but I didn't realize it wouldn't automatically lase. So.
Yeah, it just requires that really quick thinking of, oh shit, what did I do? Okay, arm the laser, box trigger, squeeze the trigger. You know, you can still do it because I just hit the target by doing it that way. But it's just kind of one of those oh shit moments, you know? It's best to remember, of course, that the F-18 does actually stop. It does de-arm the laser. And the reason for that is the laser is actually quite dangerous. If, say, there were friendly troops nearby and we actually pulled the laser across friendly troops, you could potentially blind someone on the ground.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot of energy. That's why there's a training function to these lasers as well as a combat function. The training function uses a lot less laser energy and isn't nearly as dangerous for anyone that might be on the ground.
What is your Angels?
I'm currently at flight level 26,
Okay,
0.5.
I'm above you somewhere. Oh, I see you.
Oh, I see. Oh, wow, you're contrailing way the heck up there. Alright, so at this point, let's go ahead and head back to the old homestead and make a nice little landing.
Sounds good. I've watched your and a lot of other people's videos on, because I always try and do, you know, the brake turns, and I'm trying to emulate the case one, even at airfields, and I still have issues with like the ballooning.
Yeah, because it's getting dark, we'll go ahead and just make a lazy straight in for landing, and that way we can just work on the very basic fundamentals of landing, okay?
Sounds good.
I guess we should have brought some night vision goggles.
Yeah, then I wouldn't have been able to do my HMD.
Exactly, yeah. They actually do have night vision goggles that have the same functionality as the joint helmet mounted queuing system, but those aren't in DCS at the moment, unfortunately. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and fence out, and I will turn my lights back on so you can see me a little bit easier. And then I'm going to go ahead and go back to my air-to-air radar on my right DDI. And then on my left DDI, I'm just going to open up the EW page just so that way I know exactly what's happening around me. And we're going to go for waypoint 7, which is going to give us a nice lineup point for the runway. Whoa. So I just experienced a interesting nighttime illusion that real pilots experience. It's called false horizon, where if you look out in front of us, if you look at where we're flying at a heading of about 190, you can see kind of the slope of the sun coming into the horizon, where you can see light. And I thought that was the horizon, so I had my jet kind of banked unintentionally, following the horizon out in front of me, rather than looking at the velocity vector on my HUD.
Ah, yes.
And I can see you back there. I'm currently at indicating 270 knots, so if you want to pull out, you can get out in front of me here, and I can join up with you.
I might try and form up on you.
Okay.
Bit of formation practice.
Cool.
It's just hard. The hardest, like once you're there, it's fine. It's getting to the position without overshooting.
Yeah, and that's where having a good leader who's, you know, flying a stable airspeed. So I'll try and fly a stable airspeed for you at like about 270 knots indicated. And that way you'll know exactly how fast I'm going. Thankfully, the F-18 is one of the easier jets to fly formation with. Because of
oh man, if that's the case, I'd be scared to fly anything else.
The F-16 is pretty easy too. The fly-by-wire jets are the easiest. It's like jets like the F-14 that can be real hard.
I just find like the spool-up time of the engines like can get you like PIOing pretty quick.
Yeah. That is very true.
Can't tell if I'm closing. Did you say you're at about 270?
Yep, I'm at 270 knots. And it looks like you're doing 433. So
Whoa.
you're getting real close. Yep. So,
it says I'm doing 270.
Oh, sorry about that. That was your ground speed on the F10 map.
No. I was like, what have I calibrated wrong?
So yeah, so what you can do that can help you out a little bit is you can lock me up with your radar in Twiz mode, and that way you won't be making my ears ring, and that way you can see a very easy readout of exactly how far away I am.
TWS. So just hover, or do I actually have to
you can hover
TDC
over
to press?
You can hover over me for latent track while scan if you'd rather do that, or you can go TDC to press once, and that will put me into a TWS lock. So that's what's called a soft lock, where you won't be actually giving me an RWR indication. If you press TDC to press again while hovering over me, you'll give me a hard lock, which is essentially what you would use if you were trying to fire an AIM-7 Sparrow that requires a hard lock for semi-active radar-guided missile, and then I would get a RWR tone.
Okay, because yeah, I'm like TDC depressing, and it's. I was having I was doing some air-to-air stuff last night, and having issues locking targets up. And is it because I'm in AACQ or no?
No, it looks like you're good. Go ahead and let's see here.
Or is it my probably my radar?
There you
elevation.
go. Now you can. Go ahead and go TDC to press now. There you go. Now I'm there.
Yeah. Was that why? Is it because my radar elevation was way off?
Yeah, your radar elevation's way off right now. You want it to be in the center because I'm more or less the same altitude with you. There you go. And now if you go TDC to press again, there I am.
Uh-huh.
So when people mess with the radar elevation, when they first start off, they're usually going way too far up or way too far down. Try to move your TDC out to the top of your radar screen for me.
Oh, the TDC.
Yep.
Because that's how I was sort of doing it last night, is if I was trying to track targets at, say, 80 miles, I would put my TDC cursor here and I would try and have it like the bottom number around 0. That way I'm getting like full coverage at maximum range. Well, I know the range doesn't change, but like within the scope of where I'm looking, I was sort of setting it.
Yeah, so the numbers are for the bottom of your scan in altitude and the top of your scan in altitude. And you want to just make sure if your target, like me, out in front of you is at 26,000 feet, you want to make sure that that scan is within 26,000 feet. So you want to make sure that the cone that's shown by the numbers next to your TDC, 26 is somewhere inside of that realm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool, and you're gaining on me a little bit, so you're currently 0.6 miles out, and you can see the lights of my jet now, which is good. Just make sure that you get your external lights turned on, because it doesn't look like they are. Oh, they are on. Never mind. You're good. And I'll get my formation lights on for you. So that way you can see
am I in
those.
your wake? Because I'm getting thrown around right now.
Yep, that would be my wake turbulence. So you just want to slide to the left or to the right.
I'm getting further away. I can speed up.
Oh, you actually don't have your external lights turned on, so just make sure you get those on so I can see you a little bit easier. And your position lights on as well. Oh, that's your formation lights are off now.
I am not sure. Let's do.
Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and start a gentle descent coming down towards waypoint 7. I'm gonna go about 7.5 degrees nose down. Whoa, it's like, you need me to pause it? Your track IR kind of went crazy there.
Yeah, I'm looking down at my actual instrument panel to figure out why my light's not.
If you want to just use your mouse, it's kind of hidden behind your throttle, and it's just labeled position lights. It's called position lights dimmer.
Oh, I had that. Unpause. I just want to see.
Okay.
Are they on now? It's moving.
Your anti-collision lights. Yep, you're on now. You're good.
Oh, weird.
Yep, there you go. Now you're all lit up. Now I can see you. I'm at 280 knots indicated. I'm at idle as we descend here. We're probably gonna.
I almost overtook you because I wasn't paying attention.
That's all good. It happens. And then in the dark here, it's usually best to have a little bit of a wider formation anyway. So, sorry I neglected to check the time before we started flying here.
It's okay. What'd you say your indicated was?
I'm currently at 280 in the box.
And heading?
I'm at a heading of 185.
Ah, I found you again.
Cool.
What sort of planes do you fly in real life?
I fly a couple different airplanes, like a bunch of different Cessna models, like Cessna 172s, 182s, things like that. And then I fly some different kinds of aerobatics planes, mostly the Great Lakes biplane for aerobatics competition, things like that. So nothing too fancy, but it's a lot of fun. Just building those hours for the airlines.
You trying to become an airline pilot?
Yep, that is the goal in the future.
Like passenger or cargo or?
Ideally passenger. Cargo, from what I've heard from many people, is not great for your long-term health because they only fly at night. Alright, so we've kind of come through the final approach course for Al Minhad. So what we'll do is we'll make a 270-degree turn to the right-hand side to allow us to descend a little bit farther and get back onto course. So if you open up your HSI, then you select waypoint 8, and then do a course select. You can select a course of 090 for the runway course.
That course part I am unfamiliar with.
Okay, so I'll just pause it real quick.
Thanks.
Yep.
So eight.
Yep, that's your HS. Is that your? No, that's your SA page. So I'm just going to unpause it real quick and make sure you get your HSI. Yep.
Where are you? Nope.
It's on the support menu. There you go. All right, I'll pause it real quick. And so what you're going to want to do is select waypoint 8, which looks like you've already got that selected. And then see on the top right of the box where MPCD is underneath the UFC. So where it says CRS, just
yeah.
So you're going to want to press and hold that, and you'll see a line start to rotate around your HSI, and then a button on the bottom ODU on the UFC will say CSEL for course select. You're going to want to press the ODU button. So on your UFC, the ODU is those little screens with the circles next to them.
Okay.
So it's going to be the bottom button, that bottom circle on the UFC where it says CSEL. You'll press that once. You'll enter in the heading 090 on the UFC keypad. Press enter, and that will automatically set your course line for 090 degrees. And then what we want to do essentially is just fly on top of that line all the way into the runway for the landing. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Cool. I'll help coach you through it. And I'm going to select Almin Hod on my radio so that way I can get them to turn the lights on for us. All right, they are on 250.1.
Wonderful. I think I got that sorted.
Let's see. Look at your HSI for me. Cool. Looks like you got that right. So we'll just continue this right-hand turn.
Altitude.
And we'll level off at 5,000 feet and keep the turn coming to get back on top of that line.
Because yeah, the only nav I've used so far is TACAN, and it's not useful all the time.
Yeah, so you can do this exact same thing, putting a course line on top of a TACAN station as well. And that's how you would actually navigate onto the BRC of an aircraft carrier for a landing on an aircraft carrier.
Chevy 1-1 inbound.
So essentially what you just want to do is get your jet on top of that line on the HSI.
So the reason this is, like, if you set a, can you set a course line without either a waypoint or a TACAN designated, or does it? I mean, it would always be underneath you, right?
Yeah, so you can't really do that without a fix selected. So waypoint or a TACAN station would be your fix. I don't know if you can do it off of an ADF station, because I know you can use ADF navigation in the F-18, but there's really no reason to use it. So essentially we just want to keep flying here at about 5,000 feet until we get onto that course line, and then we'll fly on the course line all the way into the airport. And we can see the beautiful lights of Dubai. In real life, I actually prefer flying at night than during the daytime sometimes, because
Really?
it's just the air is usually a lot smoother, less turbulence, there's usually less people on the radio, all these kinds of things. So it's really fun to just kind of do a easy cruising cross country at night. We'll start to slow our aircraft down to about 250 knots as we get over the city, so that way we don't break any windows or any airspeed restrictions. So when you're flying at night and you're trying to do, sort of quasi-instrument flying like we are now, it's best to use those autopilot modes to the best of your ability to really kind of reduce your workload and help you, expend more brain cells on the actual navigation to the airport rather than necessarily flying the airplane quite as much.
I see. Yep.
Alright, I actually have the airport in sight, so I'm turning to follow the course line to a heading of 090. The airport's nice and lit up, so if you actually zoom in, you'll be able to see the airport pretty easily. Oh, looks like you're passing underneath me.
Oh, yes I am.
That's okay. Alright, now we'll start just descending down to the airport itself. So if you keep following that line, I'll just stay behind you now. Don't worry about trying to get back behind me. So see that clump of lights kind of in the middle of the blackness out there? There's like highway lights, and then you see just this long kind of string of lights out there.
Yes?
Yeah, right just below and to the right of your velocity vector.
Yeah.
That's where the runway is, right there. And at this point, we can go ahead and drop the flaps and drop the gear. Just keep your throttle at idle as you drop the flaps and the gear, and that'll help you keep you from ballooning up.
Roger. Full flaps or half flaps?
I would go full flaps. We're still relatively heavy. Alright, so see, when you zoom in on your HUD, you can see a line of white lights and then a line of blue lights directly to the right-hand side of that.
Why?
I'm just going to pause it real quick. So zoom in your view on your HUD.
I don't have a zoom.
Oh, you don't have a zoom? Oh, okay.
Nah, I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
It was useful every now and again, but I didn't like it.
All right,
I mean,
so
I assume I'm aiming for that, right?
Yeah, so that is the runway. Directly is what you were pointing at with your cursor. Directly, yeah.
So I can see there's like this dark area here to the right of the runway. That's the taxiway, right?
Yeah, and as you get closer, you'll see blue lights for the taxiway. And then you see that those yellowish lights even further to the right? Those yellowish lights are the lights on the actual, like, near the hangars and near the shelters. So you can kind of find airports pretty easily by, both in DCS and in real life, by finding a long line of white lights, a long line of blue lights for the taxiway, and then a long line of really yellow lights for the apron areas of an airport. Yep. So that should work out pretty darn well. And so at this point, what we want to do, as we're slowing the airplane down, oh, it looks like you've already got it there. You've got your velocity vector in your E bracket, so you just use a little bit of nose-up trim to get that. I want to try to fly the jet at about 140 knots. Keep the velocity vector on top of the area you want to touch down on the runway. And then as we get, you're going to experience some crosswind because we have some crosswind in this scenario that we have here.
Okay.
Keep that velocity vector on the runway. Then as you get down closer and closer and closer to the runway, right before you touch down, kick the rudder left or right, whatever you need, to align the wheels down the center line of the runway, so that way you don't side load the airplane on landing. So that's all you got to do. Crosswind landings in the Hornet are pretty darn easy. You just got to kick in that rudder at the last second to get the wheels aligned down the runway. Sound good?
Yep, sounds good.
Alrighty, let's do it. Oh. Almost stalled for a second there, but we're good. So I'll fly right down to the runway with you, and then I'll probably go around, so that way you have plenty of room on your own. Too much nose up trim.
Normally my trim adjustments aren't as aggressive as they are right now.
Yeah. You're looking good. At least to me, everything is looking good to me. So we want to try and touch down with less than 800 foot per minute of descent. Now the Hornet can take up to 800 foot per minute on the descent, but especially like in Australia, a Hornet pilot wouldn't want to stress his jet too much, because you're just used to flying from airfields and you want to extend that service life as long as you can on the jet. Starting to drift. Yeah, good job keeping that drift of the jet to the left of the runway, so that way you don't find yourself being pushed off to the right too much.
So the runway is the lights, right?
Yeah, the runway is that long line of white lights.
I'm basically crowding onto it.
Yep, and that's what you want to be doing, exactly just that.
It says I am fast.
Yep, you're right on speed. With the loadout that we have with 3 bags, you'll be a little bit faster on the landing, so maybe about 145 or so. But you're looking real good so far. Looking good, looking good. And then once you get onto the deck and you're rolling down the runway, pop out that speed brake to help slow yourself down a bit. Right, coming through about 100 feet. Or 1,000. Yep, you're doing good. You got it. I'll shut up.
I'm trying to get this weird. It's normally the velocity vector and the E bracket don't give me, like, they don't move around as much as they are.
It's because of the crosswind. That's why it's happening. Yep. All right.
And so,
looking good.
So I'll point my nose. Oh shit.
Yep. And now start to kick that rudder to the right for the touchdown. And throttle idle. You're on the deck. Good job. Pop out that speed brake. And I'm going around so that way I can make my landing. Good job, dude. That looks awesome. Real good job.
The first time I did a landing and wasn't expecting nose wheel steering to kick in, I did an F16 and rolled it.
Yeah.
But
yep.
I am very cautious not to be rough on the rudder pedals once you get weight on wheels now.
Yeah, exactly. It actually killed an American F-14 pilot who wasn't expecting that in real life.
Because he hopped into an 18 and...
Yep, he got switched over to flying F-18s, and on one of his, familiarization sorties, the same thing happened to him, and he went off the taxiway, flipped, and unfortunately it killed him. Okay, I'm on kind of a pseudo downwind here. Getting my aircraft resituated.
I'm trying to find a exit.
They're there.
I assume this yellow sign will tell me. Or did
Yeah.
I miss it?
The taxiway will be lined by blue lights.
71
just gonna park up here.